Hi, this is Lars Farabee with High Point. How are you? Hey, Caitlin, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can.
Hey, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I apologize for not being able to be there in person. Um, my colleague and I, though, are excited to be able to talk about our programs and really answer your questions.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you being here.
So Rachel should be joining us in just a little bit. And she's actually going to be the one leading just a short presentation.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. That sounds like a great plan.
But the idea was that Rachel would do the presentation and then really open it up to questions. We hate coming to these and just talking and talking and talking. We'd much rather, say a little bit about our programs, but really talk more about PA and how to get into a PA program.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Hello.
And I apologize if you hear some clapping. My son's testing for his green belt in Taekwondo right now, so I'm going to cheer that on. But hey, Rachel.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Hi, Rachel. I'm Caitlin. It's nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
And Caitlin actually, or Rachel actually works directly with our PA students for High Point. So anybody that's interested in PA program, Rachel's your person.
Oh, very cool. Well, I'll be applying there in April, so I might reach out to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rachel is the person to know. So
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. I have my little in.
Yes.
hey, Caitlin, do you know how many people are going to be showing up tonight?
I do not, because we do both over Zoom and in person. So I'm not entirely sure, but usually we start at like 7:02, 7:03, just to give people a little bit of time to get here if they're running a bit behind.
Okay. I might try sharing my screen in the meantime, just to get that set up.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
And also, Rachel, if you have the link for the, just let folks know that we're here,
Yes.
or that they were here. Rachel's going to put that in the chat box, and then that way, if folks want to sign up for more information or maybe get on the list to come in for a tour and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
this is the best way to do that.
I'm struggling here. Hold on. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's try this again. Share. Beginning. There we go. And then okay, I think that will work then. Okay. It's this. All right, so I just put the link in there. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. Let's see. And I just put a link here for specifically like a campus visit if you guys wanted to really come by yourself or with a group, so that you can schedule a campus visit and get a tour of campus and the facilities and everything. So that's in the chat here as well.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're good to start the meeting. So welcome to our last meeting of the semester, everyone. This meeting, we have High Point presenting. So we have Rachel, who is part of the admissions team. Is that correct at High Point?
Yes.
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 For the PA. So without further ado, Rachel, you can have the floor.
Sure thing. Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys are having me and Lars for your final meeting of the semester. So I'll just kind of do a quick presentation here about High Point and then our PA program, and then I'll let you guys ask whatever questions you have for me. So just to introduce myself, so again, I'm Rachel, and I am a graduate recruiter with the Graduate Admissions Office here at High Point. So I primarily focus on our biomedical sciences program and our PA program, and then our Doctor of Medical Science. So we'll get into our PA program then. So this is kind of our mission statement, just starting out here, that at High Point, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. So I'm just gonna break that down a little bit. The first component here is an extraordinary education. So just kind of go through the first bullet point here. We have a groundbreaking integrated curriculum. So that basically means that whatever you're learning in the classroom is also going to be used in your labs, in your simulations, in your groups, and then also in your clinicals, and then into your future as a physician. So you're not going to go into a class, learn something, and then just forget about it the next day, like you might have done for your art history class or something. This is all information that you will continue to build upon as you go through our curriculum and then just through our school. The next thing, so development of life skills. So High Point focuses on more than just you being a physician, and just, it's more than that. It's things like having good bedside manner, and knowing how to communicate with your colleagues or your patients. So whether it's your fellow PAs and classmates, or it's people in different disciplines like physical therapy and pharmacy. So you get to learn to be more than just a physician, but again, also to be a good person as well. And then the third thing here, so learning beyond the classroom. So there's a lot of hands-on activities that will ultimately build into your clinical rotations and then whatever specialty you go into as a physician. So we try and give you those skills so that whatever, again, you're learning in the classroom, you're applying in many different ways so that you can use that in your future career. So we have 9 different clinical rotations, so 7 of them are required, and then 2 are selective. So that kind of gives you the opportunity to either hone in on your specialty and your focus, or to explore different areas if you're still trying to figure that out. So the next component here is an inspiring environment. So the first bullet point here is atmosphere, scholarship, and connection. So a big component of our program is these problem-based learning groups. So you'll get into groups of 6 or 8 students in the PA program, and you'll be given a problem or a scenario, and then as a group, you learn to break that down. And so you all work together, and every person in the classroom or in any setting is going to take away different information. So it's good that you get to put all of your minds together. It's also with that connection, we don't look to have our students compete against each other. We actually do not have like letter grading or anything like that. It's either a high pass, a low pass, or no pass. So if you're in that high pass range, it doesn't matter whether you got an 86 or a 96, you have mastered the general concept. So it's just to foster that environment, again, of connection, that you're able to work together in a group. So the next thing here is to expose the students to cultural experiences. So within our program, you'll get to work with members of the community, as well as volunteering in different clinics that we're trying to get back some volunteer clinics, whether it's in schools or in the community. So that way you have access to different groups of people. So especially in your clinical rotations, you will likely have encounters with diverse groups of people, whether it's people who are just underserved, and people who are distrustful of physicians or medical staff, especially with the current environment right now. So we try to help prepare our students to be able to communicate with these people and to have a general understanding of, again, how to react in these different situations as well. So that goes back to the life skills component. Then the third thing here is we prepare students for success and significance. So again, we look to give our students all the opportunities to be able to be great physicians in terms of competence in their field, as well as, again, being good people, giving back to the community, and again, just knowing how to communicate with their patients and interact with others. Then the third part of our mission is caring people. So our program is 65 people, so it's the size of our cohort. So it might be a little smaller than some others, but it means that our faculty is extremely accessible. So it's very easy to set appointments with them, or if there's a concept that you're not understanding, it is very easy to meet with them, to be able to break it down. If you're not doing well you didn't do well on a test or a certain assignment, then they often will reach out to you and say, okay, something isn't working, let's figure out, a different method for you to study, or do you need to study more? Do you need to focus on these certain concepts? So again, they're very accessible, that they will help you get through because they want to see you succeed. They don't want to see you fail. So the next thing is friendly, welcoming staff. Be like me and Lars. So we have the graduate admissions team, as well as those in financial aid, security on campus, our administrators, that no matter what the question is or whatever you need, we're there to help you guys. And then the third thing here is visionary leadership. So our faculty is really focused on looking towards the future and again, making you guys really great physicians, that they're focused on these hands-on and high technology experiences so that you guys are ready for the world of healthcare as it will be, because everything is constantly changing with new technological advancements and different changes in the environment. So they help you to be ready for that. This is just a little snapshot of our Condon School of Health Sciences. It's a beautiful building built in 2017. So it's one of our newer buildings on campus here. So one thing I'd like to point out is that that is our Condon School of Health Sciences. It is not our Condon School of Physician Assistant Studies or athletic training. It is 4 disciplines. We have a pharmacy school, physician assistant studies, athletic training, and physical therapy students all housed in our Condon School of Health Sciences. So that allows us to have this interdisciplinary approach to healthcare. So within some of your classes and labs, you may be working with different students, especially in our gross anatomy lab that you'd have the first summer that you would arrive on campus as a PA student. Then you would have the opportunity to work with our physical therapy and athletic training students in the lab. There's also other opportunities to meet with them, collaborate with them, whether it's in research or in other courses. So we really like to focus that it's not just about our PA students, it's about all of our healthcare professionals within our Condon School of Health Sciences. So with that, there's been over $120 million invested in the health professions thus far, and we expect that to continue. And then it is housed in a 220,000 square foot facility. So it is state of the art with beautiful biomechanics lab, our simulation suite with high fidelity mannequins that I'll go into. So that is all for our health professional students. So this is all meant for you guys to succeed in the future. So another thing we have is with all of our health professions, we have all these hands-on activities like skills labs, health profession practices, and then in the classroom, and then the labs. So that is a component of all of our health professional programs. There's a student-focused approach in all of them as well. So it's not easy for the faculty to do that, to train themselves on these different technologies and to continue learning and researching, but they do that for the betterment of our students and, you know, future physicians and physical therapists and everything. That it would be easy just to give a lecture and say figure it out, but they're really dedicated to their students. And so, like I said a little bit before, our health professions in general are looking to prepare our healthcare professionals for the world as it is going to be, not how it is. So specifically going more into our physician assistant studies program. So there's a big focus on our experiential problem-based learning. So we have these problem-based learning groups that, again, break down scenarios, and you change throughout the year so that you're able to take on scenarios and together be able to figure out a diagnosis, figure out what might be causing this, the best way to treat a patient. So that's a big focus of our program. And those a lot of times will turn into study groups as well, which is really cool. The next thing is the advanced patient simulators. So in this picture here, you see is one of our high fidelity mannequins. So that mannequin in particular will actually breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. And you can intubate, you can put IVs in the mannequins. So this is just simulating an operating room. We also have 15 high fidelity mannequins total. Have slightly different functions, but We have laboring Lucy, as we call her, that will give birth. So you get to practice the act of giving birth. There's actually a child that will come out of laboring Lucy and scream and cry. And then we have the Pediatrics Unit and the mannequin, the child mannequin will actually follow your eyes. So he'll follow you where you go, he'll make noise. So just like an actual young child might be. We also have an emergency suite, and then internal medicine. And then we also have these rooms that will mimic actual exam rooms that it looks exactly like you'd go to in a doctor's office. So that will get you comfortable once you're going into your like family medicine rotations or something like that. And then finally, we have this focus on hands-on clinical skills. So we have a lab that's completely dedicated to these hands-on clinical skills. So you get partnered up and you might have a unit where you're working on suturing and putting in IVs, and those arms will actually burst and spurt blood at you if you make a mistake. But it teaches you that if you do make that mistake, you're likely not going to make that mistake again. They might also have, heads for eye and ear exams, or the lower half for other kinds of exams. So there's a lot of hands-on experiences, including our gross anatomy lab, that you get to work with as close to working with real people as you possibly can. So that's kind of the end of my presentation here. So I'm just gonna open the floor to any questions. If after this you guys still have other questions or concerns, just feel free to reach out, either call that number or reach out to gradadmit@highpoint.edu. So any questions for me?
And it could be about High Point or just how do you get into PA school? That's what we're here for. So
like Casper, anyone dying to know about how's the Casper application work?
Yeah, what's your question?
Like a minimal number of like patient experience that an applicant has to get?
Did you hear that, Rachel?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. Is there a minimum number of patient care hours of experience that you should get?
Yeah, so our program looks at, we have a minimum of 200. So that's on the lower end for physician assistant studies programs, but most of our students have closer to 1,000.
What makes an applicant stand out in your eyes?
It's a great question. Right now, PA studies, it's heavily GPA based right now, but we're also really looking to expand, have a more holistic approach and expand to look for more diverse applicants. So being able to tell that story, I think, is really important, as well as, again, getting those patient care hours and having great recommendations. I think that stands out as well, to have someone write your recommendation that really knows you well and really can speak to your abilities, whether it's in a classroom or in a clinical setting or professional setting. I think those are all things that we really look at in our applicants.
and to be completely realistic and transparent, I don't know how many applications you've read so far, Rachel, but pretty sure that your eyes crossed one day because there were so many. We get 12, 13, 1,400 applications a year for 65 spots. So it's incredibly competitive. So high GPAs, when we say that we require a 3.2 to get an interview, you typically have to have much higher than that. And to kind of go along with that, we are starting up it's a one-year master's program in biomedical sciences. So for students that are looking for maybe a little bit more of an edge, or maybe want to gain some bench skills, want to gain more clinical experience, want to maybe boost their GPA a little bit, or get more of a credential, that's a really great option as well. And we'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. We're seeing that as kind of a bridge program to potentially getting into a PA program or medical school or things like that.
I must say, it's very impressive that you guys read through all of those applications. I think I would go crazy. Um, what do you think makes High Point stand out amongst other PA schools?
I think that our facilities, again, you can't really tell just from the picture of the building, but Congdon it's a beautiful building, very spacious for only really about 200 of our graduate healthcare professional students. So there's opportunities to you have 24/7 access to the building. So whether it's the high fidelity mannequins that you want to get into those rooms and like test some things out, or even the anatomy lab, if you need to look into an actual person that are donors, then you can do that. So I think that the technology and the facilities that we have is really what helps us stand out, as well as being able to get those hands-on experiences with that technology. That some schools might have that, but if there's hundreds and hundreds of PA students, you might not get the opportunity to use it as much as you might need. So I think it's just the opportunity to get that actual experience yourself, that you get to put in as much practice and as much time into your studies as you'd like with all those resources.
And Rachel's actually, I don't know if she mentioned this or not, but she's actually a double graduate of High Point. Can you speak to your experience? I mean, even though, you didn't go through our PA program, but what was your time at High Point like?
I mean, High Point, again, like the resources and again, the facilities, they're state of the art pretty much in every program. So just like little things like we had as an undergrad, part of our meal plan was the 1924 Prime Steakhouse. I don't know if you guys have heard of the famous steakhouse on High Point's campus. That is part of the meal plan. But you go and you make a reservation, you have to dress up, and it's kind of like a learning lab that they teach you how to eat a business lunch or dinner. So they will help you with proper etiquette, which forks you use for your salad. They help you out with those things that not everyone comes in knowing that, but everyone will leave knowing that. There's little things that, they try to take care of students with food trucks every Wednesday that is free for all students. That every Wednesday from like 11 to 2, they have different food trucks that you can eat at, as well as these little snack kiosks that every morning, so Monday through Friday, about 7:30 to 10:30, they have these snack kiosks. So you don't have to bring snacks, that there's always something there, that you're going to be hydrated, you're going to be fed while you're on campus. And career and professional development is great, no matter what field you're going into. That they'll always sit and work with you, whether it's just a mock interview or you want them to look at your resume, they will help you out. So again, just a lot of resources at High Point for students.
Yeah.
How many more rounds of interviews do they have this cycle?
How many more rounds of interviews do you have this cycle?
This cycle, we're kind of down to the nitty gritty here, that we have 2 left for the year. So we have pretty small interviews. And we may have a couple in January, but we only have a couple left.
Could you touch on finances?
Lars, you might have to comment on that. I don't know the exact breakdown.
Yeah, happy to help. So, and like Rachel said, we're coming kind of towards the end of the cycle for the semester. We might have a couple more interviews in the spring. So if you've applied for this year and you haven't heard from us, that's still a good thing. It means that you're still in consideration. So right now, no news is good news. As far as finances are concerned, all in, it's about 85,000 or so. Now that's a rough estimate, but the way that graduate school works is that it's different than undergraduate, like loans and things like that. So a lot of students do use loans to finance their education. it's different at the graduate level because you can actually borrow up to the amount that you need for an apartment. There's a food allowance that we budget in, and we estimate high so you can borrow low. The thing you have to keep thinking about is that the salary that you make on the other end is such that it makes those loans that much more affordable. So you really need to make sure that you're going for a place that has a really great value. And for us, we think that that's our program. Prior to this year, now, again, COVID's kind of thrown everything off. We were at 100% pants pass rate and 100% job placement rate. Now, we can't claim that for this class that graduated during COVID because the healthcare market's been a little down, but is bouncing back up. So we're seeing those numbers tick up. So before this kind of world-changing event, we're at 100% pass rate and 100% job placement rates. So we think that because of that, it is a really strong value for what you're paying. Outside of High Point and outside of the federal loans, there are national and state programs that you can apply for that are either loan forgiveness programs or scholarships or grants. Some of them are dependent on where you will practice. So if you practice in underserved areas or certain areas in the country or the state, they'll give you money for that too. And we can direct you towards those throughout the whole process.
Thank you very much. Do we have any
I
more?
hope that helps.
Yes.
Do they anticipate any change between the GRE and the PACAT?
Do you anticipate any change between the GRE and the PACAT?
At this point, I think we're sticking with the GRE.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We're looking into it. The PACAT is new. I think our admissions committee, their mantra is we don't want to make you jump through a bunch of hoops. Y'all are type A. You have worked really, really hard for a very long time. We don't want you to have to do something extra. So we're evaluating if that's something that we should add, but right now I'm not foreseeing that happen really anytime soon.
Thank you. And I think we had a chat or in the comments, it said, when does the next application cycle open?
That would be in April of 2022 for the start of summer 2023.
Any other questions? Yes.
Is it required to take anatomy and physiology at the same university?
Is it required to take anatomy and phys at the same university if there are two parts?
No. As long as you have the classes and you have a C or above, we're good with it.
Any more? How about what's some advice for the pre-PA students in the club?
Absolutely. I think a big thing is if you are applying, to apply earlier. I think that's one thing that is going to be an advantage. That the earlier you apply, the less people essentially you're competing with. At least once you start the application reads and start getting into interviews. The people who are applying September 30th, their
Hello?
applications. Can you not hear me?
We can hear you. You're okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I heard a hello and I was like, can you not hear me?
That's
Oh, no.
okay.
But yeah, so I was saying, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Yes, applying early. So I think that's a big thing. You don't necessarily have to apply right in April, but especially if you're graduating, get that final transcript in May and try and apply soon. Right after that, with GPA being such a focus, if you feel like you need to strengthen your GPA a little bit, whether it's your overall science GPA or just your overall GPA, one thing we recommend that is if you have a little bit of extra space in your schedule that maybe chemistry isn't your strong suit, and that's what might have brought your science GPA down a little bit, is like, well, you could take extra biology classes or extra physics classes that kind of will bring up your GPA a little bit. So if you're like, like I have a 3.5, I'd like to have closer to a 3.6, then maybe you could take a couple extra courses here and there. If that's feasible. I don't think you need to break your back trying to do that, but if you feel like you need just a little extra boost, I just tell people to try that. That's pretty much the advice that I have in terms of that. Just continue getting hours and good recommendations. Again, just try and make yourself stand out in your statements and your recommendation letters. Again, just try to put your best self forward in that application.
Real quick, since you were talking
And the
about,
same, and I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the same applies when you get to an interview. You know, really what you're doing, you're applying for a spot in an interview. That's basically what you're doing when you're applying through the Casper, because most places require an interview. And my advice is always, when you get to an interview, remember to interview the program too. It's perfectly fine and actually encouraged. Ask them questions. Have a conversation with them. You need to be a discerning consumer, and you need to make sure that this is the program for you, just as much as we're asking you if you're the right student for us. There's nothing worse than getting into a program and then 3 months later realizing I have made a huge mistake and I shouldn't be here. Make sure that you're interviewing them just as much as you know, they're interviewing you, because like for us, we're a blind interview. When you sit down with us, we haven't looked at the interviewers have not looked at your application. They have not looked at your resume. They haven't seen your GPA. If we're inviting you to an interview, we think that you're going to be a great TA. Now it's just a conversation to see if it's the right fit. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're going through this process.
And then just real quick, since you were saying that High Point is focused on GPA, what is the average GPA of the class that you have now, for example, for PAs?
I think the most recent number I saw was 3.7.
Yeah, 3.7, 3.8, right around there.
Yeah, and that's pretty much across the board. Most PA programs, because it's so competitive, they do look at GPA for the statistics, but I think in general, there's a trend away from that, because again, just a GPA isn't a perfect indicator of how you're going to be as a physician. So
okay, thank you. And then there was another there was another question in the chat. If your clinical hours are on the lower end, can you still apply if you're planning on working during a gap year or throughout the application process?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you can apply, I would say as long as you have that minimum of 200 clinical hours, then I would go ahead and apply, and you can always add your hours which I think you have to reach out to the individual programs and let them know. But as long as you have the minimum, that would be considered, like we would count them to a certain point.
Thank you. Are there any other questions that you guys have? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. Oh, we have another question. What are some good questions to ask about the programs of different schools? Like you said, what should we ask to interview the school?
I'll give you an easy question. It's only 3 letters. It's why. Ask them why. Ask a professor why they came to teach there. Ask them why they have a focus like us on problem-based learning or on patient simulators. Ask them why they have a research project like we do. If you start asking why, then you start figuring out the values of that program. And if your values line up with their values, then that's a good fit. If they don't, then that's okay. You can find another program. But asking why is a really, really easy one to remember.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. And then do the interviews include MMI style questions?
It's Lars. Like.
No, they do not. No. So we thought about it, and MMI is like speed dating, and that stressed us out. We didn't want to do that. So we wanted to have 2 conversations, and that was it. So it's you interview with 2 faculty members or a faculty member and a community provider that usually acts as a preceptor for us. And that's the extent of the interview process. Now, the day itself, you get to talk with students, you get to see campus, you get to take tours, all that kind of stuff. But the actual interview is just, it's 2 individual conversations.
And I know COVID is still a thing and everything, but for this cycle at least, are you trying to do in person or are you still on Zoom, or how does that work for the interviews?
Yeah, we have a mix of both right now. Again, just to cater to some of those people who might be in Colorado or California applying, a lot of times those are the people that we have in our virtual interviews, a lot of times just because of distance, but we do have a mix of both and probably will continue to do so.
All right. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Well, we thank you very, very much, Rachel and Lars, for coming and speaking with us. If you're okay, I'm gonna send out this information in our email about a recap from this meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And any other questions before we say bye? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much again. We sincerely appreciate it, and that we're glad that you were able to come to our meeting.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You're welcome. All right. Our next meeting isn't until January. I think it's like the 18th or something, whatever that Tuesday is. And before you go, we have buttons here for the club, so feel free to come take them. And best of luck on finals. And if you have any questions, we'll still be here at the bottom here to answer anything that you might have. All right. Have a good night. Thank you very much again.